Hi friends, this is Andy Bargerstock with Fringe Toast Music right here on Crew FM. Recently I had a chance to sit down in the Crew studios and talk with James Dean Claitor. Just released a CD called Pseudonyms here in 2014. We'll talk about James's music history and what led him to the release of this new CD. Piece of music called the James Bond theme probably sounds familiar to most of you. Composed and performed by James Dean Claitor right here in the studio with me. James, we're longtime friends, but I must admit that it's only been recently that I've discovered your musical history. Tell us about this new CD, Pseudonyms.
Well, I got back into music after a long sojourn, and when I was in Hawaii, I started writing songs again and meeting producers and performers of different types and songwriters. And I'd always been encouraged to write music by some of my old buddies when I was in a band back in Louisiana, where I'm from. And so I started composing songs and gradually moved back into my roots in jazz and blues, and so that's where we ended up with this.
Now, you have quite a songbook of CDs. About how many? Over 20 CDs you produced?
Yeah, and I kind of went overboard. I've written about 175 songs over the last 2 years and recorded 23 albums, believe it or not.
So there may be many people out there who've heard your music, but they don't know it's yours. Where might someone have encountered some of your tracks that you've recorded over the years?
Well, my agent has got it playing in different places now, and it plays in Bed Bath & Beyond, Gap, Old Navy, and of course it's on Spotify and different streaming services. So it's getting out there, in a few movies as well.
And you say you're from Louisiana?
I'm from Baton Rouge, yeah.
Baton Rouge, and you actually, did I hear it right that you actually were in a band with Randy Jackson, or that you inherited his position at some point when he moved on?
When I was 16, I was playing bass in different groups, and I was asked to audition for a band called Tempest, which was started by a guy named John Gerbrick Jr., and Randy Jackson was the bass player. So I came in to audition, and I was supposed to play a number of Tower Power songs, and I had memorized them, and so I made the audition, and Randy left to go play for Dr. John and the Night Trippers.
Yeah, and then of course Randy went on to play with Journey as their bass player for about 5 years, and many of us know him as the judge on American Idol. So
right.
Do you keep in touch with him? I know you know his brother, right?
Yeah, Herman is a drummer, his brother, who also I've played gigs with him, but Herman currently he teaches music at different places in Baton Rouge, and he also plays drums for B.B. King. He used to do that, and he still does.
So for those of you who are not familiar with Pseudonym, and I must admit it was just this week that I downloaded some of the tracks, and it sunk its hooks deeply into me. I'm going to be playing music in this interview and also afterwards for the fans of Fringe Toast Music right here at Crew. But we're talking to James Dean Claitor, who is just released a new CD, Pseudonyms. It's labeled as a jazz album, but I find that your music really spans a number of genres. It's kind of chill-out, ambient, electronic, as well as singer-songwriter. You got a little swamp blues in there. Have I covered all the bases?
I think so, and then, you know, on the album previous to this, which you just mentioned, Allegedly in Love, I also have some folk songs in in there as well, and some bluegrass. So basically, I'll play anything that hits me at the time.
And let's share with the audience Gustavo with featuring Michel Martineau.
Michel Martineau, yes, from
Tell
Canada.
us a little bit about him.
Michel and I started working together on songs when I was in Hawaii. I used SoundCloud as a collaboration and networking tool for musicians and songwriters. And so Michel heard a song that I was composing at the time, and we collaborated on that one. It's called Second Chance, and it's very popular, one of the #1 downloads that I have. And so then when I did Gustavo, which is about Hurricane Gus, Gustav, that came through Louisiana and did a lot of destruction, he heard it and he said, oh yeah, I want to play on this one as well.
CD released here in 2014, Pseudonyms. James, it's really great to see you back in Fairfield. Your creativity is still there after 20-some albums, and you put out this beautiful album, Pseudonyms, that covers a lot of bases and should be pleasing to the ears of the listeners of Crew. What's next? Where are you going to be going from here? Do you have any plans for another CD sometime?
I do. Well, now that I'm kind of reconnecting with all my friends and new friends that play jazz, like also I mentioned, I've been collaborating. Another person is Dave Panico from Kansas City, and he's on the
sax player, right?
Sax player, played on the second track, Buongiorno Baby. So my next album, I think, will be more jazz. It'll be more upbeat. It'll be almost danceable kind of smooth jazz.
Well, that'll be nice. Maybe there'll be a time that we can get him on the phone with you and talk about the music collaborations you've had. I think I want to lead out here in this interview with Allegedly in Love. Now, on this track, you do some singing, and tell us a little bit about that treatment that you did to your voice and the overdubbing. It's kind of an interesting effect, and I might say pretty pleasing. So tell us about that song and the production of it.
That was from the previous album, and I use auto-tune. A lot of musicians now use auto-tune both in recording and in live performances. So it's kind of a crutch in a way because it makes sure that you don't go out of tune. And it can be used as an effect. A lot of rappers use it. They just turn it up all the way and it creates an effect. I kind of use it selectively and try to hide its effect when I'm doing most recording. But in this one, I overdubbed several different vocal parts and harmonies, and I did it to create that effect that you hear in that song.
Yeah, you and I talked a little bit about this. I sometimes find auto-tune to be a bit of a distraction, but I don't find it in this track. I actually like the way you judiciously used it, and also like the deep resonance in your voice, and that helps pull off the effect. So let's listen to Allegedly in Love, and James Dean Claitor, thank you once again for coming by to the studios here at KRUU FM 100.1, the voice of Fairfield, Iowa and beyond. Check out the new CD Pseudonyms released here in early 2014. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
Allegedly, allegedly, allegedly in love. Allegedly, I'm a fool for breaking your heart. Allegedly, allegedly, I'm a fool for pushing us apart. You let me in, even though it's sin. No one would tell you where I'd really been. Even though I wanted to, I could not tell the truth. I didn't want to do it, but I told you lies to keep you safe and happy and satisfied. Nobody knew but me, and it burned inside. Finally, I couldn't hold it in no longer and had to confide. Tell somebody now the secret is out. My life story is all just a lie. Just a lie. Allegedly, allegedly in love. Allegedly, allegedly, allegedly in love. Allegedly, allegedly, I'm a fool for breaking your heart. Allegedly, allegedly, I'm a fool for pushing us apart. I don't know what came over me. You're the best thing to happen the very start. You don't know why I ran away. I had a secret from you from the very start. From the very start. Yes, I broke your heart. Allegedly we still could. Yes, in fact we still might be in love.